back to our miniseries, The Lone Screenplay Winners, where we talk about films that solely won an Oscar for the writing categories. My name is Matthew Anderson, and today we have back on the podcast Megan Loucks. Megan, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm so glad you remembered how to pronounce my last name.
Yeah, I actually that was something I should have asked before, but I'm like, wait, ask her, just wing it.
I like the confidence.
It's like Brendan Fraser. It's like it doesn't matter. Just say it with confidence, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's, we've already had you back on the podcast before for, I believe, Lars and the Real Girl,
Mm-hmm.
which was a wonderful episode, and it'll be pretty interesting to have you back on for this one because I think we might be divided on this more so than the Lars and the Real Girl episode. We don't know. Maybe by the end, one of us might change the other way. We'll see. I
I
don't
am
know.
pretty stubborn, especially when it comes to Kenneth Branagh, so I will
Ooh.
stand my ground.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So let's just jump the gun and just jump right into it. Without further ado, let's get started on our film discussion. The film we'll be talking about in full detailed spoilers, like we always do with these things. Today's episode will be Belfast from 2021, which was written and directed by Kenneth Branagh. Uh, the film's premise is that of a 9-year old boy must chart a path towards adulthood through a world that has suddenly turned upside down. His stable and loving community and everything he thought he understood about life has changed forever, but joy, laughter, music, and the formation magic of the movies remain. So it sounds to me like you're a pretty big fan of Brana. I assume that was one of the reasons why you chose this episode. What else was there that made you go, if you ever came back on the podcast, especially now we're doing the Lone Screenplay Winner miniseries, that you thought, that's the one I want to choose?
Mostly because it gave me an excuse to rewatch Belfast. Well, I only saw it once before.
Okay.
And I just love Kenneth Branagh and his films, so really any excuse to talk about him, I'm down. But yeah, I mean Belfast isn't my favorite Kenneth Branagh film. Not it even rewatching it, I was like, like an hour in, I was like, man, was this how it was the first time I watched it? But yeah, I know it might surprise you, but no, I just love his films, regardless if I think they're bangers or not. So
What is your favorite Kenneth Branagh film, if you don't mind me asking?
oh goodness gracious, it's probably a tie between Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I absolutely love Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Um or oh, this is really hard. I really do enjoy his Thor film. His Thor film's probably like top 5 MCU for me.
Oh,
Um and I also love Hamlet. So those would
oh
probably, if
yeah.
those probably all kind of wrestle for the top spot for me.
Interesting. So
Really just depends on my mood, honestly.
yeah, no, yeah, well, I don't know about Hamlet being like, yeah, I'm in the mood to
Dead.
watch a 4.5 hour movie of this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, Dead Again is also up there. I do love Dead Again.
gotcha. So, yeah, so I hadn't seen. So, okay, correction. I almost was about to say I hadn't seen it since the theaters too, but I remembered after he won the Oscar for
Mhm.
screenplay, which we'll talk about what happened there. Although I think both you and I have this mind theory game going on. We're like, yeah, we know what happened with that race, but we won't spill the beans yet. I recalled seeing this. Yeah, I saw it in theaters once, like you did, and I saw it a second time after he won the Oscar. In fact, I think I showed it to my grandmother right after he won the Academy Award for screenplay, and then I hadn't seen it since. It had been a while since I'd last seen it, and as far as like Kenneth Branagh as a filmmaker, I mean, obviously you've already shared within the first couple minutes as to what you know in terms of like how much you like his films, even though you admit that some of them aren't like quote unquote his best work. You at least
Yeah.
admired. It sounds like to me like you admire his ambition and skill
Mhm.
behind the camera to direct these.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that he just has like a confidence to his work that I feel like a lot of people don't capture. And I also think that he's very dramatic. I mean, if you look at any of his films, especially the ones he acts in,
Yeah.
he is like the Shakespeare guy, like he's just has a gravitas to him, a confidence. He just has it. And I appreciate that because I feel like especially Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, he's wearing so many hats in that film. Like he's the lead of that movie and he's the director. And I mean, if anyone listening hasn't seen it, you have to watch it because it's like he puts himself front and center. He's hot, he's sweaty, oiled up, and he's just
He's shirtless.
yeah, he's shirtless, and he looks beautiful in the movie. It's like in the 90s, like 1994, I think. So like it's peak Kenneth Branagh. But I don't know, I just appreciate how he, especially like his Thor movie, how he treats it like with such care, and like there's you can tell that the movies that he makes, he really cares about the source material. um and I mean, we see that in Belfast too. Like he puts an Agatha Christie book in there and he puts a Thor
Yep.
comic in there.
Yeah.
Um, so I think he's just like a real literature nerd that became famous and was like, oh, I'm gonna make movies about all the stuff I love.
Based on your recommendation, and I don't know if you read my review on this because over the last, for the record, everyone who's listening to this, we're recording this a bit way early in advance. In fact, by the time we're recording this, the Conclave episode hasn't even come out yet. But I've been saddling myself with a fair amount of movies to get caught up on for the future episodes, and also just movies that I've been wanting to watch. So I don't think I mentioned too much about my thoughts on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein because I actually did see it, and it is going to tie into what I have to say about Kenneth Branagh as a director going
Yeah.
into this rewatch. In that, I will give you that Kenneth Branagh as a director, he has the passion, he has
Hmm.
such a visionary style to him that he's so dramatic with his filmmaking style. In fact, I would argue, in my opinion, from what I've seen of Kenneth Branagh's films, his Shakespeare adaptations, I would argue, are some of the best work he's done as a director.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I may not be head over heels with some of them, but like Henry V and Much Ado About Nothing are films that I may not understand the language that Shakespeare is trying to illustrate
Yeah.
in the stories, but the way that he is actors and the way he's directing those films, especially Henry V, it's such a extravaganza type epic movie
Yeah.
that deserves your attention on the biggest screen possible. And even acting wise, he's really good. In fact, if I'm being honest with you, I actually prefer him a little bit more as an actor than as a director
Yeah.
because he's great as an actor and he's giving a lot of great performances. But when it comes to his non-Shakespeare stuff, and I didn't realize this was a problem until I finally saw Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. In that, I I have a feeling this has always been a problem that I've been trying to nail down over the last like maybe 10 years or so, 15 if I'm being frank here, and it's the fact that he has the vision, he has the scale and the passion for his films, as I say. But
Hmm.
when it comes to his story beats, whether he's directing someone else's screenplays or he's writing his own scripts, he has, it almost feels like he has the material down, he knows what the story is, but he doesn't allow the audience to emotionally take in these
Mm.
story beats. Like the only times that work for him are Shakespeare, because Shakespeare is that is designed in a certain way that allows us to really get sucked into those worlds and get into those stories.
Hmm.
Whereas some of his other stuff, I remember tried watching Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, I think it was, that he directed. I turned it
Yeah.
off because I was so bored by it.
Yeah.
Cinderella, I wasn't that impressed with, although I thought it was like,
What?
yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
It was like one of the better Disney live action remakes. I don't know. I'd still
Yeah.
prefer something like Poor Things or Shape of Water if we're going to include those as
Yeah.
like Disney live action remakes, so to speak, even though they're not. Um, and even Murder on the Orient Express, which I had only seen once, and
Hmm.
I thought I like the cast and Branagh's doing a good job acting wise, but I just couldn't really get sucked into it. And I think that's a problem that is definitely in Belfast
Yeah.
for me, where I think everyone in the film is doing a good job, and like it's clear that it's got a fair amount of crafts involved, but I just I don't really connect emotionally with the story in of itself. In fact, even when I saw it the first time around, I just barely connected with it enough to where I was like, I was able to give it a pass.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at that point, I'd already seen a fair amount of his like non-Shakespeare work, and I'm like, oh god, this is so boring. All right, moving on to the next one. Even though I don't like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or it you know, kind of in my opinion, sort of lives up to its title as like a Frankenstein monster of a movie,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. It's still a fascinating film to watch, just because
Oh
of
yeah.
the fact that like you look at all the behind the scenes stuff. It's like Coppola wanted to do he was going to produce it, and then the one request that he made to whoever was going to direct it was that De Niro needed to play the monster. You had Frank Darabont, come in to write a draft for Kenneth Branagh, and Darabont has gone on the record to say it was one of the best screenplays he ever wrote. But the movie itself is like one of the worst things he'd ever seen come to life, and I'm like,
Oh.
damn, okay. And and to me, it feels like I said, like a mix mash of like all these different things that Branagh wants to do, and what Coppola wants to do as a producer, and what Darabont and all these other creative forces come together to where again I would say if you're interested or you're curious about it, I would say check it out. I think it was on Tubi or Pluto last time I checked, because that's how I saw it there. But if you get a
Mm-hmm.
chance to go to like your local library or somewhere you could just download it, or stream it, I should say, not illegally download it. I don't endorse that on the show. Um, but you know what I mean. Like if you
Yeah.
get a chance to find it, and if you're the least bit curious about Kenneth Branagh's take on Frankenstein, I would recommend it just for the pure insanity of it. And it was a very memorable experience because, like I said, when it was over, I was like, I have so many questions. I don't even know where to start with this. But
Yeah.
moving on, but going back to Belfast though, like I said, I came out of it the first time around just barely getting by with it, like just enough to where I was like, it was passable. I enjoyed enough of it to where I can give it like a low 7. And on subsequent viewings, it's gone slowly down for me. Not to the point of like Conclave where it's like actively bad. Because like I said, I see there's a bit more passion to this, and it's not the mundane, typical Oscar bait schmaltz that we see from what the Academy likes typically nowadays. But there's enough in there that I'm glad I revisited it, if nothing else. Like I actually
Yeah.
think out of the entire ensemble, I'm not sure if you're going to agree with me on this on your second rewatch, or if there's other things you want to bring up. But one note that I did want to start off with that I was actually surprised was actually good, or maybe I'd forgotten how good he was Jamie Dornan.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I didn't. Now, granted, I haven't seen the 50 Shades movie, so obviously I
Oh
don't
my
know how much of
gosh.
like a quote unquote bad actor he is. But then again, it's like it's like the Star Wars prequels or like the Twilight movies, where it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, some of these actors have gone on to do better works, like Robert Pattinson, and Natalie Portman went on to win an Oscar for Black Swan down the road. It's like it wasn't her fault, guys.
Yeah.
They were just poorly directed. So yeah, I thought he was like definitely Jamie Dornan was definitely one of the more standouts of the film for me, and I forgotten how good he is in the film, even though he's not in it a whole lot, like Katrina Balfe or Kieran Hines or even Jude Hale, I believe is the kid's name, who
Hmm.
plays Buddy in the film.
Yeah, I agree. I think second time he definitely stood out a lot more to me, and I don't know if it's because we just don't see him in a lot of stuff anymore. So when you do see him, you're like, "Oh yeah, that's Jamie Dorn." What? How do you say Dornan? Dornan?
I think Dornan, yeah.
Yeah. So you see him in the movie, and you're kind of taken aback because uh, I don't know. I haven't seen anything from him maybe since Belfast. So I love him in this movie. You feel his presence in the movie quite a bit, even when he's not there. There's like always a constant mention of when's Pa coming home? Pa comes home in, X amount of weeks or whatever. Um, but for me, the standout, like every time, like the first time I watch it, this time is Ciaran Hinds. He is so good in this as the grandpa. And this most recent time I watched it, I mean, I just got done watching it, like rewatching it, like maybe 2 hours ago. And his moments in the movie are like the most moving to me. They have a conversation when he's in the hospital. The father, Buddy, and him are all sitting there, and they're talking about moving to London, and the grandpa says something along the lines of, "Oh well, London's only like one big step away from here, and I'll always be somewhere familiar," I think is the wording, or something. He says that to the young boy, and it's like he knows that he's not going to be around for a while, or like he's not going to be around coming soon because he's like fairly sick. And then the next scene is literally his funeral, and
Yeah.
I think the film really struggles like the first 45 minutes to an hour to really establish a story that's worth paying attention to, because unfortunately this movie is about the Troubles, and I don't really know much about the Troubles.
Yeah,
And
this was God, sorry.
you're fine. And even when I was watching it a second time, there's not a lot of talk about really what's happening. There's a conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants, but when I'm watching it, it just kind of seems like Kenneth Branagh wanted to just tell the story about this family and not really focus too much on like the political unrest, or like the religious unrest of the area. And I just wish that the film would have tapped into a little bit more of the why they were moving, and uh you know maybe talking to like other people that have lived in the area for decades and decades, seeing all of their friends and family leave. We kind of get that at the end with the grandma,
Yeah.
how she's just left all alone, no husband, no family. She's just left in this area that is still under a lot of unrest. And I think when my boyfriend and I looked it up, something the Troubles lasted like another like 30 years. And it would I just feel like if they would have established the story a little bit better in like the first 45 to 60 minutes of the film, I feel like the payoff at the end, with like the family eventually leaving and having like this new beginning, would have hit a little bit harder.
Yes, and I should also point out that it feels like it's been a while since I've seen a movie that was about 90 minutes or so for a podcast episode. Because yeah, this is like an hour and 36, hour and 37 minute film, so
Hmm.
it's a fairly quick movie in terms of like it's the runtime. But you're right though, it doesn't really establish what exactly this like what exactly this fight between the Catholics and the Protestants is, because again this takes place in the 1969 Northern Ireland riots, where
Hmm.
we had the discrimination against Catholics and Irish nationalists, and yeah, and that is something. And I almost wonder though if Branagh didn't want to explore that too much, because well, one, it's from the boys' point of view, but even if you're using TV footage, which they do use archive footage, and even
Hmm.
through the television sets of like what's going on through each moment, it's told in a more broader level kind of moment where it's like it's in the background. We don't need to explore too much about this or have any like opening title fonts, because again it's like a 97-minute film. You're in and you're out in terms of like how the pacing is done for what this is trying to be. But you're right, yeah, that is something that Branagh I think does fail as a filmmaker, is that he doesn't explore too much of that.
Mm-mm.
Even having it be set from the boys' point of view, like we could have had. I mean, I am a little bit grateful that Branagh didn't ham fist the message in even more of having like a next door neighbor who is who is of the opposite
Hmm.
religion. I think the family is Protestant.
I think so.
uh, and they mentioned that the girl that he has a crush on in class is a Catholic. And I am grateful that they didn't have this like boy in the striped pajama type situation where it's like two different opposing sides, so to speak, but they're best buddies over the course of the film,
Hmm.
so to speak. And another aspect of the movie that I find really odd in terms of Branagh as a filmmaker, for me, even just in terms of its directing, some of the cinematography is just really odd, like in terms of
Oh,
how it's
dang.
framed.
I was gonna say the
Um,
cinematography is my favorite part of the movie, but
yeah, I
uh,
mean, again, yeah, but yeah, and again, we're probably like, I already hinted at earlier in the episode, even before we
yeah.
started. Like, I have a feeling like we're both going to be divided on this movie, and it's really the fact that like I'm fine with the black and white cinematography, although it's weird that I do wonder if it's intentional how he starts the film and ends the film in color, but the rest is presented in black and white. I thought to myself, wait, is he trying to imitate Spielberg from Schindler's List?
Well,
um,
there's that one scene of the play of Christmas
yes,
Carol that's in color, which I thought was interesting, and I haven't really
that was
looked
good.
into. Yeah, I haven't really looked into the the reasoning on why it is the way it is. But I just know that the guy that does his cinematography for this movie does like a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
And so you know, it does only have about two Dutch angles though. So if you are not a fan of Dutch angles, then go ahead. I mean, this will be perfect for you. But I love Dutch angles, so but yeah, no. Visually, the film for me is probably my favorite part. Uh,
Okay.
and it's like the most consistent, I think, throughout the movie. Like, if you can bet on anything, well, at least I can bet on anything, it's that the movie looks good. I love those scenes where, especially the one where Buddy is like, I think he's like sitting on the staircase. And so you see to the left the staircase, and then to the right of the frame is the doorway. And you see into the doorway and see them sitting at a table having a conversation. And I love that they show that the child is eavesdropping on his parents,
Hmm.
trying to figure out, because you know, like kids sense things, they sense when things are going wrong. So I love that they showed that he's like eavesdropping because he wants to know like what is happening with his parents, because he can tell that they're like keeping things from him. So showing it through the cinematography I think is great, because there's like so many examples throughout the movie where Buddy is eavesdropping on his parents, or like whether it's apparent to them or not, like they know he's doing it, but we know that he's doing it, so he knows a lot more than his parents like allow him to know. um there's a shot where he in the kitchen where he's looking through the window at his brother, his older brother, and his dad, who are having like a very touching moment together. And they show that as well. And I know I love the cinematography, and I don't know how much I love the black and white. Maybe if there's like a good enough reasoning behind it, I could get into it, but I did think it was a little gimmicky.
Yeah, and I think that may also been a part of the reason why I'm not the biggest fan of the cinematography in terms of how it's framed at times. Now,
Yeah,
over the course of the film, it does get a bit better here and
yeah,
there. But I do wonder if the color, with because you not only mentioned the play, but also the movie they're watching, Chitty Chitty Bang
yep,
Bang, and the
yeah.
dinosaur movie. It's all in color, and I wonder. I kind of want, well, not wonder, but I honestly do think it was Branagh being very obvious of like watching the colored films or the colored presentation of the play or whatever they're watching is a way of this like pure joy and a wonder and awe coming into Buddy's life, so to speak.
Mhm.
Like like I think that's part of the reason why it's all presented in black and white is to
Yeah.
show again almost like a memory of Branagh being presented in this film. And I should also point out to our audience is that when Branagh made the film, he had made it around the time that we were in the COVID pandemic shutdown. And according to an interview he did, he stated that it reminded him a fair amount uh, of feeling like this containment, isolated area, almost similar to how he was with his childhood in Belfast, I believe he grew up in, and that did inspire the creation of this movie. And you could definitely tell with how these actors are playing his parents and even grandparents that it comes across in that aspect of capturing his life in a very honest way. I mean, you said about the grandfather, it's like that is a
Mhm.
very genuine type of family member to have amongst yourselves, or even pa or ma. And what I do find really odd though about it for me, and this is another aspect of the film that I personally wasn't the biggest fan of, was the fact that because of its vignette, short story, almost like narrative, because it doesn't really have a clear through, story narrative until about an hour into the story, as you said, is that there are moments in the film that I think Branagh, when he's adapting his childhood life into feature film, it almost seemed to me like there were times in the film where he's more focused on capturing what happened to him in the moment, even though on a story level perspective, it didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Mm.
And really, the biggest one that I completely didn't even notice until my second or third watch was the fact that you established the mother as this like tigress protective character who's making sure that Buddy does not get into any kind of trouble, is not in any kind of danger, and is making sure that he stays out of trouble, especially from the police after they lift. It was like a candy bar from the store.
Hmm.
It was like her, Buddy, and his cousin in the film, and she ends up like berating and scolding him and sending him up to his room and such. And then towards the end of the film, we get to that part where there's another riot going on at their nearby grocery store, and he takes like the it was like a like a dish cleaner detergent or whatever,
Hmm.
and instead of putting him back into the house, he decides to bring him and the cousin back to the grocery store where all the riots are going on. And there's a lot of danger going on. There's glass being thrown around. All the grocery items are being tossed around, and people are getting hurt. And I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, this doesn't make sense from how you're
Hmm.
capturing it in the moment. Like I get it. Again, like it's really hard when you're bringing your own life. We talked about this also with The Big Sick. How it's hard to bring your own life to the big screen without having it feel so too personal to where the audience can't connect to it.
Hmm.
And I felt with something like The Big Sick, even though I had my own issues with that film, I felt they did have a fair amount of material that they were able to adapt in a way that balanced enough to where the audience can get a glimpse of what this relationship was like, while at the same time being able to connect with it on a movie telling standpoint. Whereas this, again, there are times in the film where it just felt like it almost feels like the incoherent writing at times, or the structure of it felt more like you just wanted to tell these important moments that changed your life, whether it was for better or for worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like it was almost like, too many perfect scenarios at once. Like he goes and he gets in he well, his cousin grabs him and they just so happen to go into this mob. Well, she plans on taking him into, this mob to really stick it to the people. And he tries to get out. He can't get out, and then he's like, okay, well, I might as well just take this, thinking that like, oh, this will help my family, not something that he wants, but like something that would help his family. And he goes to his mom and she takes him back, and the father shows up, and it is very like I said, perfect scenario type thing. It's not really believable. I mean, this could have actually happened to him, and I'm sure it probably happened in real life to like families that live there, but in the movie it's very dramatic for the sake of dramatic, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like the son picking up the brick and tossing it to his dad, and his dad then whiffing the brick, and it just perfectly hits the gun out of the guy's hand.
Who are holding the mother and the cousin and Buddy
Yeah,
hostage? Yeah.
yeah, so it's just very it's very dramatic and perfect, but it's so over the top that I feel like if it did happen, if Kenneth Branagh's watching and this did happen, I believe you, but in the movie it comes across as just right place, right time kind of situation, and it doesn't play very well.
Mm-hmm.
That like when that break-in happens, that's when the movie, like I paused it to see like how much was left, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's only like 20 minutes or so left of the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, this feels like the midpoint of the movie, if anything. So when it happens, I'm like, all right, this is when it's getting good, and then that scene happens, and it kind of like killed that momentum that just started.
Mm-hmm.
And then they ramp the momentum back up with the grandfather dying and them moving. And but it is very, that moment in the movie really sticks out to me as well, because like you said, she's this protective mother. They know that they have a lot of eyes on them, so maybe that's why she reacts the way she does. Maybe she goes overkill with it because she thinks, oh, we have all these eyes on us. We can't let this, slip through and, make it worse for us. And that's why she reacts the way she does, but it doesn't really fit her character.
Yeah, and I like these actors in their roles.
Yeah.
Katrina Balfe does a good
She's
job.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it really just comes down to my biggest issue with the film is the writing itself, which is
Yeah.
like the one win the film ended up getting.
Which is
Um,
very strange because when I was watching it, I was like, why didn't she get nominated for something? Because she has some really, really nice moments in this movie that are like, especially between her and her husband, that I
mhm.
thought were like, she was killing it. I know she's in that one show, that Showtime show, and she's amazing in that movie and in that show, and it's like totally slipping. Oh, Outlander. She's
Okay.
an Outlander and she is phenomenal in that. And I thought she was deserving of some kind of nomination for this movie, I think, but it is strange that this one got nominated for the screenplay when I think honestly that's probably um the least impressive part of the film.
I do also want to go back to, is it Kieran Hines or Ciaran Hines? Is that how you
I think
pronounce it?
it's Ciaran Hines, Kieran. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, then
Ciaran,
then let's
Mr.
split the difference.
Hines.
Yeah, Mr. Hines. Let's split the difference. You call him Ciaran Hines, I'll call him Kieran Hines.
Okay,
That way one
sounds
of us
good.
is right. But I think Hines does a good job with the movie, and even though it's nothing in my opinion is like, ooh, we should nominate him for an Oscar
Hmm.
nomination for this. I am glad that he has one.
Hmm.
Like we've seen a lot of these veteran actors over the last couple years finally get their due and get their recognition that they deserve. And I am grateful that he has an Oscar nomination on his hand. I don't know if he'll ever win an Oscar down the road. That's a whole other different story.
Yeah.
But the fact that you look at his career and you look at the films that he has done with, even like Harry Potter, you look at, I think he did Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He's worked with, all these actors and wonderful directors. And to see him finally get his due, or at least be in his due in the eyes of the Academy, it's like, that's pretty cool that he got nominated for this. And I will say on a positive note, I do agree with you that the grandpa scene with him at the hospital, I think, are very touching.
Oh,
And
yeah, it got me.
even with Buddy talking about, his grandpa's asking Buddy, what do you want? What is it you want to ask Santa Claus for Christmas? And he goes, I want you and Grandma to come with us to Belfast. And the camera
Mhm.
lingers on him, and he doesn't say a word. And I love in that moment he understands in the moment that he's probably not gonna
No.
make it that long, and yet the only thing that they could do is just give like a nice hug to each other,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, and I thought that was nice. It was a nice moment, even with the Buddy and the father, Jamie Dornan, they're at the hospital again, and they're talking about going to London, almost like taking one step for mankind, like the moon
Mhm.
comparison they made. And I thought that was a nice scene too. It's just like a nice, cozy, type
Yeah.
of performance. It was good. And even Judy Dench, I think she does some good work here. Not, I
Mhm.
wouldn't say it's, I personally wouldn't say it's like some of her
No.
best work she's done, but it's quite good with what she's doing. And yeah, and even like her on the bus scene with Buddy and talking about her past life and wanting to move out and explore more of the world and so on. And I thought that was a very nice, touching scene. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
All of those scenes with the family are really good. Like the Christmas scene is really good, especially because, they just had that scene in the hospital and they're talking about like, oh, Santa might skip us this year.
Hmm.
And the grandpa says to him, you're like, no, you just ask Santa and he'll do it. He'll get you something nice. I love that those moments with the family when they get to just enjoy time together because a lot of their time is spent under stress, waiting for the tax collector essentially to come through, the rent collector to come through. So when they have like these peaceful moments together where they can just be a family, those moments are so good. My favorite has to be when they go see A Christmas Carol or the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang scene, because especially the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang scene, because for me, I love going to the movies with my family because it's like this
Mhm.
awesome shared experience. And seeing it, like that is like that scene in that movie is how I feel when I see a movie with my family, you know, it's just like this idealistic version. We're all sitting there with our snacks, just adoring the movie, singing along. And it's nice when it's like peaceful with them. And I think that's where the movie really sticks out in some parts where like, all right, maybe he does know what he's doing with these family moments, and that those really kind of saved the movie for me. Those and the cinematography saved the movie for me for being something that I would, you know, not necessarily like.
I definitely see your point in terms of why, again, why someone would enjoy the movie. It's just, again, for me personally, I I enjoyed bits of it here and there, and I
Mhm.
think the performances are quite good for what they are. I will mention there are two other scenes I want to point out in terms of the writing or even just the way that they were presented. I did like, or I thought was like, okay, that was a little bit funny. Was when we get to the minister and he
Mm.
brings up about the Protestants will die and such, and brings his like hellfire
That is
speech and like,
so intense. Like, I had to
yeah,
pause it the second time because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy is so over the top."
and he's like sweating, pouring sweat,
Yeah.
and then after he goes through his whole speech, he's like, now money.
Yeah, yeah, that is funny. I thought that bit was funny as much as it is very intense. I think that's kind of the point. And
Mhm.
I like when it shows it goes from his face to Buddy's face, and he's just like, "What the hell kind of church is this?"
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's funny, but yeah, you know, the more I think about the movie's writing, the more I think it is very much carried by those performances.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other aspect of the film that I did like in terms of the writing or at least the structuring of it was I thought the joke that Jamie Dornan said about the doctor joke. You only have 24 hours to live. And the guy's like, oh, that sucks. Well, I tried to. Well, I was going to tell you. I was trying to contact you yesterday about it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the movie. It's just
Yeah.
it's adequate, I guess, for what it is. In terms of Branagh as a non-Shakespeare movie, it's definitely one of his better ones. Like I again, it wasn't a chore to get through. It's a fairly short film, even though it is admittedly just in one ear out the other for me. Because again, when I think of other non-Shakespeare adaptations he's done, like Cinderella or Murder on the Orient Express, or even from what I hear of like Artemis Fowl, which I've heard even people who love Branagh have been
Mm.
like, yeah, I don't understand what happened there with Artemis Fowl. Um, but yeah, but it's just like it's better than those. Like it's
Yeah.
much better than those. But at the same time, I don't think it's anything in my opinion, that's that I would want to watch it another time. Like if I weren't doing this for a podcast, to be like, yeah, whatever, I'll just move on with my life.
Yeah.
But since you had me come on, in handcuffs, so to speak, to do this, I was okay with doing it. It's the same thing with Conclave. It's like, yeah, I didn't care for the movie, but we got to do it for a podcast. You
Yeah.
got to suck it up. I mean, after all, it's no Crash or Green Book, um,
There we
so yeah,
go.
I
It's no
yes.
Amelia Perez.
Anyways, we don't want to get into this whole debate on this, not on the show. No, 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 no. Let's move on from this. So, yeah, were there any other final thoughts you wanted to say about the movie before we move on to the awards section?
I don't know if it was because this had like COVID restrictions. Um, but for me, I wish that uh I know it takes place in Ireland, but you really
Mhm.
couldn't tell. There's really I mean, and it's probably because of the restrictions, and he wanted to really show, like, how closed off this family was from, other parts of Ireland, but, even when I was, after the movie, I was, like, looking at pictures, like, just of the cinematography to see, like, "Oh, maybe I missed something." Uh, Maybe there was a shot of, Ireland looking beautiful that I missed, but there's really not anything of the scenery other than when the grandfather passes away and they have his funeral. But other than that, it's all in that small little area of their house. And again, it's probably to like drive home the fact that they are very much cut off from everything else. And but I just wish that, I don't know, if they were going to do this movie, it almost feels like he could have just made it anywhere, made it about anybody. And it still probably
Anybody?
he could have made it about anyone, anybody. And that was a good one.
Yeah.
And
You walked into it, so
I
that's on you,
did.
Meg.
And I did. He can make it about any person in any part of the world, and it would have been relatively the same story. Um, which again could be intentional, could not be. I don't know, but I just feel like that was my last thing I needed to get out about it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like I said, I always say with every episode I do, I'm grateful that for the episodes where myself and a guest are discussing a movie in a more polite way, of course, but
Yeah.
also one where it's much more interesting for episodes where we're divided on the episode,
Yeah.
and it's much better than having us just be like, yeah, we saw the movie. Anyways, moving on to the end. That's it. Bye, guys. It's just like it's a
Yeah.
pretty boring episode. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, why did you create this then? You might as well just cancel the whole thing. Um, but yeah, but no, like I said, I'm glad that you got something out of this and you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, the second time I watched it, I cried, like especially at the end with the funeral, mostly
Mhm,
because of the pacing of it. It's so fast. Like you see the grandfather with the son and his grandson, and then literally the next scene he's dead. You're at
yeah.
this funeral, and then right from there you see Judi Dench's character literally all by herself. It
Mhm,
is so sad, and I think a lot of people connect with that because, I don't know how close a lot of people are with their family, but like the reason why, I live in the area that I live is because it's close to my family. And so while I'm watching this movie, you're like, yeah, I would stay in an area that I necessarily don't love because at least my family's there.
yeah.
And you always have these doubts of like, oh, maybe I should leave. But then you're like, oh, but I'll be so far away from my family. So seeing that play out and then seeing this little old lady all by herself, ugh, it wrecked me.
Yeah, again, I definitely do get it. In fact, if nothing
There's a good
else,
story in there. There's a good story in the movie. It's just it takes way too long to get to.
oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, if it makes you feel any better, when I saw the trailers for the first time back when it came out in like 2021, I did have tears watching it. I thought, wow,
Yeah.
this actually does feel very touching and very moving, and maybe this will be the one film that I'll like from Branagh as like a non-Shakespeare movie, and it somewhat was, but somewhat isn't. Anyways,
Yeah.
so yeah. So, as far as the awards conversation, I should point out that Belfast had premiered at the Telluride Film Festival, where it became one of the most screened films at the event that year, as well as gaining positive reviews from the circuit. It was also screened at the Chicago International Film Festival, the Mill Valley Film Festival, the Middleburg, where I believe it won the Narrative Feature Film Award, and Toronto International Film Festival, where it won the People's Choice Award.
Wow.
The film itself also was held at its LA premiere at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. Not only was the film a critical hit, but it was a box office hit too, making 49.5 million worldwide on a production budget of somewhere between 10 to 15 million. It says on IMDb it's 11 million, so maybe it's around there, closer to like 10, 11 million. But it still says like estimation for the budget. Belfast had been nominated for several awards from major precursors such as Golden Globes, BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and even garnered multiple Guild nominations from the Producers Guild of America, Directors Guild of America, and the Screen Actors Guild. And I should also point out that because I don't know if Branagh is a member of the Writers Guild, or if the fact that they had produced this outside of American unions' policies or whatever their restrictions are for these types of international productions, it was not eligible for the Writers Guild, but it still had it didn't really matter because, well, we'll get into that in just a moment. As far as the Oscars go, it was nominated for 7 categories, including picture, director, original screenplay, supporting actor for Mr. Hines, supporting actress for uh, Dame Judi Dench, original song for Down to Joy, and best sound.
Hmm.
Now I remembered at the time. I'm not sure if you remember this too, or if you had been predicting the Oscars or paying attention to them like I had that season. I had remembered that this was originally touted as an early frontrunner for Best Picture at the Oscars, but only got its lone writing win. Why do you think that was the case?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know because again, like the writing is the weakest part. I would have been fine with it getting. I mean, sound too. I don't know why it got nominated for sound. There's really nothing super impressive about the sound.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not sure why that's the category it won. I guess I would have to really dig into like all the other nominees for every single other category, but when I look at like what was nominated for best screenplay, it's like everything else would have been better.
Well, almost.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, Meg, but I remember not being a fan of Don't Look Up. In fact,
Mm.
my grandma, a quick side story, my grandma had seen Don't Look Up before me that season, and she said it was like the most revolting, disgusting movie she had ever seen in her life. And the fact that I told her it was being touted as like a major Best Picture nomination contender, she's like, "Oh, I can't believe that stupid people would watch this and give it nominations. It was ridiculous." And
Yeah.
when I finally saw it, because I live over next door to my grandma's, and I walked over, and sat on the couch, and I said, "I finally finished Don't Look Up." And she goes, "Oh, what did you think of it?" I go, "I didn't have the extreme vitriolic reaction that you did, but I didn't like it. When I finished it, it was like, well, that was a movie, I guess. And that
And
was
you know
it."
what? That's the only one I haven't seen from the list from that
Oh,
year.
jeez.
So,
Oh,
well, we
Jesus.
I think we talked about it like not that long ago, and you're like, "Don't bother," and I was like, "Okay, I won't." Like
Yeah,
that's
I'm.
you didn't have to convince me much.
Yeah,
Um, but
it's an.
yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's a politically unfunny satirical comedy with lots of great actors, and they're not really given a whole lot of great things to do. Like it's trying to do a lot of these like political satire movies we're trying to do at the time, and I didn't realize this until as I kept watching more movies. Like I just saw Primary Colors, and I didn't realize, in my opinion, how kind of underwhelming something like that was. And I thought to myself, well, it didn't go the like, overtly, go big or go home kind of swings with its comedic moments. It's mostly played as like a dramatic film with some comedic moments here and there. Um, but I don't know. It's just, and even we're now living in a time where we're in a position where this kind of shit could happen with Don't Look Up. In fact, we're
Hmm.
currently living this thing where we have an administration who's dumb as rocks, and they're making such baffling decisions one by one, to where I'm like, I don't want to say that Don't Look Up called this, but I unfortunately have to say they were kind of right. It's just,
I kind of called
if
it.
yeah, like if Adam McKay didn't have his head so far up his ass and actually made a good movie, maybe this could have been something more interesting to watch. But now it's just like an uneven horror movie while watching it. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I get it. I guess Belfast is better than that one, but the other ones nominated that year, I think, probably would have been uh, better suited.
Even the film that you hate of all time, Licorice Pizza.
Okay, it's not the worst movie of all time. It's just not my thing. How about that?
If you don't love it, then you detest it, and I hate you for it. No,
Oh
I'm kidding. Yeah,
no!
no. I'm kidding with you, Meg. No, I get it because I will admit, watching that movie, because I saw Licorice Pizza back when it came out of like an early screening in Maryland. I was at Stevenson at the time. One of the best theater experiences I ever had, because I saw it much early in advance before even my Chicago buddies did.
Dang.
And I had like the biggest smile on my face the entire time. It was a crowded theater. No phones were taken out. Everyone just kept quiet. It was like how movie theaters should be. You
Mm.
just you turn your phone off, you shut up, and you watch the damn screen. And it's just it was such a great experience for me. And obviously to see Bradley Cooper, act his head off as like John Peters, that was hilarious to watch. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that was great, and yeah, it was a fun experience for me, and I'm really glad I saw it. But yeah, as far as like the lineup that we got in terms of like whittling down what the hell happened with its lone screenplay win, because I don't know if I told you this off air too, in terms of like why I think we got the lone screenplay win we got, and here's a couple theories or reasons why I think it ended up just going to Kenneth Branagh. So first off, we have to establish the fact that Branagh had finally gotten into like 7 different categories finally with picture, director, screenplay for this, and in the past he'd been nominated for lead actor for Henry V. He got a supporting actor nod for My Week with Maryland, and he had gotten adapted screenplay nod with Hamlet. I think like live action short for like it was like something he did. I can't remember what he directed or produced. But he got 7 different categories, which established him as like the first person to ever do that. Which I don't think even someone like Walt Disney, George Clooney, or Alfonso Cuarón ever did. They only ended up getting like 4 or 5 categories, maybe 6, if my memory serves me right. So he'd been building up a reputation as like a multi-nominated person. He had never won an Oscar before. This was going to be the one time that they can give him an Oscar, and it also helped that BAFTA and WGA were divided. So BAFTA that year went to Licorice Pizza, and the Writers Guild went to Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up won the WGA award because of the fact of its originality of its screenplay. Also, Adam McKay and David Sirota are known from the TV side of the Writers Guild, so that's probably why they won the award there. And much like how Belfast, a more international production, is respected here in the United States by the Academy, I think the fact that Licorice Pizza being set in America is what allowed BAFTA, the other side of the pond, to go for that for original screenplay.
Mm.
So at the bare minimum, PTA has a BAFTA win. That's awesome. It's great. Yeah, so I'm at least grateful that they were able to do it for that. And unlike Don't Look Up or Licorice Pizza, and I'm actually surprised you didn't bring this up either for both of their films, or I don't know if you got a chance to look at their overall nomination haul. Belfast had both above the line support and below the line support with its overall nominations, where
Mm.
it not only got into the screenplay category and picture, but it also got into director. But unlike Licorice Pizza, which did get into director, screenplay, and picture, it didn't have anything else. Belfast had the 2 acting nods, it got a sound nomination and song. So at the barest minimum, it showed that the older Academy voters were probably watching this and be like, you know what? It's 90 minutes long. It's a quick sit. It's not nearly as controversial or as boring of a movie as some people had considered Licorice Pizza as. And it also helped too that this continued a very big trend that's been going on since the preferential ballot, save for one movie, where every screenplay winner that has won at the Oscars managed to premiere at major film festivals. So Branagh had campaigned his butt off the entire season to where it just kind of whittled itself down to like, okay, Branagh is probably going to win this Oscar. Is it deserving? Probably not. Like, sure, I'm okay that he has an Academy Award, but I'm sorry, he stole PTA's Oscar. Like, yes, I agree. Yeah, Licorice Pizza isn't PTA's best movie he's done, but I would say of his chances that he's had so far, that was probably his closest shot at ever winning an Oscar. But again, as Joey Magnuson even said on our Big Sick episode, it just whittled itself down to what's the film would they like to see finally get their due. And because Branagh was so inconsistent with the Academy, they just thought, all right, we'll just give it to him this time, and PTA will come back with another film, because they always keep nominating the guy, even for an upset nomination for picture and director for Phantom Thread, which that was I love that nomination so much. I can't believe they did
Yeah.
that. But yeah, as far as like the other nominations it got, like I'm reading through real quick for like what was eligible for the sound shortlist. Last Night in Soho, Matrix Resurrections, A Quiet Place Part 2, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Tick Tick Boom. So there wasn't really a whole lot that they were willing to go through for the sound. And then obviously the ones that got into the lineup, which is pretty good, I would say, minus Belfast for sound.
Mm-hmm.
It was where's the sound? Dune Part One, which won the category. No Time to Die, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story.
Mm.
So it was a pretty good sound category.
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, as far as like other nominations it got, it's because I'm glad you brought up Katrina Balfe though, because I actually forgot she had got nominated at SAG, BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and Golden Globe, and still missed out on the nomination. And I honestly do think it's the fact that Judi Dench just has this like star power within the Academy. She's a
Yeah.
multi-nominated actress. She only won an Oscar once for Shakespeare in Love. Not that she was ever going to win an Oscar to begin with for this performance, but I had also forgotten that, and someone reminded me this when I was searching through to be like, what the hell, like how the hell did Judi Dench get the win? And I forgot that it's not a big precursor thing, but ever since I've noticed the last couple of years, I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep this in mind for the future down the road. It was I think it was the Australians, what the heck is it called? Sorry, I'm just looking through.
You're good.
Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts International Awards. And Judi Dench won that. And even though it's a like small branch probably compared to what the overall Academy is, it's still an Academy Award, so to speak. So it is,
Okay.
so it is somewhat of a smaller voting body, so to speak, voting in, and they gave Judi Dench the one win there. I can't remember if it got anything else from that awards group. Nope, that was it. So yeah, so she only won the supporting actress there, and got us the surprise nomination on the morning of. Whoever called that, whoever's listening to it, and you called the nomination for Judi Dench, bravo. I
Yeah.
I
Good
didn't have the
job.
balls to do it. Yeah. But yeah, as far as like obviously we tried piecing a little bit together what happened with the lone screenplay win. Why? So going back to my first comment I made before, what happened with the film in terms of why it only like amounted to just this one win and it couldn't win picture? Do you have any theories as to why?
I really have no idea. I mean, I'm pretty new to the whole awards thing. So I really have no I I I don't know, maybe I'd like to think it's because everything else that was nominated was better. But
Yeah,
I can't pretend to know what those Academy voters think. I mean, they all make some pretty wild decisions that Matt and I talk about quite a bit.
yeah,
And he teases me for it, but it's okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if this movie really was strong enough to win anything that it was nominated for, but it still blows my mind that that is what it won for. Like, I could understand. I mean, I not even understand. I could see them voting for the other categories for it, like it winning something else, but this one still just blows my mind.
yeah. It's still a baffling decision, I must
Yeah,
make.
it's just
I
crazy.
I'm just like out of this lineup, you decided to go with Belfast,
Yeah.
and even Nico and Zeddy had told me they're like, Matt, it's gonna be Belfast winning screenplay. I'm like, no, 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 no. There's no way.
You guys
Absolutely,
don't
absolutely
know.
not.
Yeah.
It's going to be Licorice Pizza. They're still gonna win the Oscar, and nope. It just yeah.
Yeah, as much as I love Branagh, I mean, his writing is I just don't really see any of it being like on the caliber to like win that award. But so this one winning it, I was like, okay, I guess. Like, I mean, the crappy part is like we don't know really. I mean, now they have that new rule that they're implementing about they have to watch the movies before
Yep.
they vote, which is wild that they had to make a rule. So
They
part
had to
of
wait
me,
for 97 years and
yeah.
Amelia Perez to get nominated for picture for them to start that rule. Thank you
Um,
guys.
so part of me thinks that like, oh, maybe they, were half paying attention and they only remembered the good parts of the movie, and they were suddenly they had amnesia for the bad parts.
Yeah.
That's really how I go into any award voting or wins that I don't necessarily, understand. I'm like, they probably just have an amnesia. It's okay.
Yeah. And also too, like the screenplay categories, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, or maybe, my evil powers as an Oscar predictor being
Yes.
passed on to you after this Oscars year, was the fact that, the lone screenplay winners we've had recently, especially in original or, well, hell, even both, honestly, where they end up becoming the sole representative win of their films. It's like we can't get Branagh director because Campion's narrative is too damn strong, and even
Mhm.
people who were like blasting that film to where it's like, why are you guys bombarding a movie like this? It's like I don't get
Yeah,
it.
that hate was weird.
I get it if you don't like the movie itself, that's one thing, but for them to have this like weird bias towards it all together, I don't know what happened with that. Uh, but yeah, but I do wonder though if it was also another factor as to why Branagh won this prize was just it was a consolation for like we can't give you director or picture, and again, like you have enough goodwill and momentum being built up for you for this season, but it just isn't your time for picture. So here's the consolation prize for screenplay because picture ended up going to Coda. And Coda didn't even start its surge until after the holidays, I remembered.
Mhm.
Because I remember when I finally saw it and I was telling some people, and I'm like, guys, Coda is not winning Best Picture. There's no way they're going to go for this basic Oscar bait trite, with a lot of good
Mhm.
performances. But it's like, oh my god, are you kidding me with this? Like, you're not going to go for this, guys. Come on. And once it won the PGA prize in SAG Ensemble, Coda did. I thought, oh crap, okay, well, I gotta bite my own words I gotta bite my own tongue for this, literally. Um, and that's that. And fun fact, I don't know if I told you this before, Meg, but this was the last, so far, this was the last time I did this perfect of a job predicting almost every category for their winners. I only got two
Dang.
wrong. The only two it
Nice.
got wrong were original screenplay because I predicted Licorice Pizza, and I predicted animated short wrong, which went to the windshield wiper. I think I predicted Robin Robin. Um, but outside of that, I predicted every other category
Nice.
right. Yeah.
That is awesome. See, I remember watching this award, like the Academy Awards for this year, but and I remembered like not really like this is kind of the year that really piqued my interest of like uh paying closer attention to what was nominated, and like because I always had like this passing interest. I always thought that like a- awards predicting was cool, just never I honestly I never had the time to get into it because the job I had at the time was all consuming. But it is fun to sit and chat about these movies that win solely based on one thing, uh, because I feel like we can have like a deeper discussion about it, and then we can appreciate all the other movies that were nominated that year that we think maybe were more deserving or less deserving. Who knows? Um, but yeah, no, I think, awards, predicting is really fun, especially when, like, you get something right, so it has been a new hobby that I've been getting into, and it has been awesome chatting with you about it, especially because you, like, know all of the little you're like, "Oh, this one won BAFTA, and this one won SAG, and this one won this," and I'm like, "How do you remember these things? That is so cool."
Spreadsheet, man.
Yeah.
Spreadsheets. I just create like Word docs. I think it was like a couple years ago when I started predicting the Oscars as well, in like maybe 2019, 2020. I'm like, I got to write down these like Word
Yeah.
docs and records to be like, what won what, what happened here. Even like the whole like individual category nominations for like screenplay.
Yeah.
I write that stuff down. Um, but yeah, no, it's if nothing else, it's awesome to see, regardless of the films that we watch or we cover for the show, it is awesome to have guests come on here and have them be like, yeah, I'm kind of curious what happened that year, that I wasn't around in, or maybe
Yeah.
my other co-host or whoever it is that's on the show, myself or anyone else who comes on the show, they're like, "Yeah, what the hell happened this year for screenplay?" And it's interesting to be like, "Okay, well, let me take you let me take you down memory lane." Like Tara Khan was on for the Crying Game episode, and he gave me a breakdown of like the supporting actress race was wild because it was like the first award of the night, and no one knew what was winning that category, and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and yeah, and so and now that I'm, like I said before, I'm very grateful that thanks to this past year, uh you have accidentally become an official Oscar predictor thanks to your
Yeah.
evil powers, or good powers I should say, of preventing Emilia Perez from winning more than what it ended up winning.
Exactly. And look at where we are now. Now they
Yeah.
had to put in a rule to make sure that everybody watches everything because there's no way Amelia Perez should have gotten in. But that's for another episode.
Yeah, I mean you're still gonna get the bullshit nominations for
Yeah.
picture, director, screenplay in any
But
ways.
my magic's slowed it down a bit. We got to
Yeah,
admit it did.
yeah. That's what the moment I was like, she's now an Oscar predictor. Hey, did you send me that meme from The Substance with like
Yeah.
Margaret Qualley, like with that smile, that forceful smile,
Yeah.
like, oh no, like, yeah. Um, yeah. Other than that, though, I don't really have anything else to say about Belfast as a whole. I'm glad Kenneth Branagh got his Oscar win. I just wish that it was for a better movie. But
Hmm.
again, if you had looked at all of his nominations leading up to this point, even with My Week with Marilyn, which I talked about on the lone acting nominee episode for Warrior, and I brought up, much like I did there, I'm going to bring up here as well, in that it just he just reached a point where he was going to win an Oscar down the road.
Yeah.
And this was the moment where it's like, look, there's no competition here. No one really cares about Don't Look Up that much. There's not a whole lot of passion out here inside the Academy, outside of people who love Leonardo DiCaprio for his climate change push, and no one really cared enough for Licorice Pizza because it only got the 3 nominations for picture, director, screenplay. Like the only other one to do that, I believe, on the top of my head, was like 12 Angry Men and then Triangle of Sadness the next year, and they didn't even go
Hmm.
home with anything of the Oscars. So
No.
it just seemed like, yeah, this is it. So that's that. Yeah. Any other thoughts you have on the awards thing, or that's about
Oh,
it?
I can't wait. I am manifesting. He will win a directing Oscar someday. If
PTA
I
or Brana?
Brenna,
Okay.
if even if I have to wait until it's like it's kind of how I feel about Ridley Scott too. Like it's gonna happen eventually. Uh, Ridley Scott, please. But I don't know. I think it's gonna happen someday. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm hopeful because again, Kenneth Branagh is one of my favorite directors. So to see him get even nominated for an Academy Award is cool.
Oh
But
yeah, sure.
I hope that he wins for directing someday.
Yeah, you might want to hold on. You might want to hold your breath a bit longer for Ridley Scott, because I don't think that's gonna happen personally.
Uh,
And as far as like Brana
we
goes,
can
it's like,
dream.
yeah, of course, like how I could dream about Bradley Cooper winning an Oscar. Although I actually think he's a lot closer than you think.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, he's got to find a movie where he doesn't have his huge ego for it. And again, I love Cooper. Don't get me wrong, I love
Yeah.
him. Like we all have our actor turned directors that we are fascinated by, and we have this overt love obsession, whatever you want to call it. You have Brana, I have Cooper, and even I'll have to admit, it's like he still provides fascinating work.
Yeah.
Much like Brana does, and yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, but yeah, and then as far as like Brana, like director, look, like he has an Oscar, it's cool. Like if he ever goes to his grave with just the one win, it's still a win for
Yeah,
me.
it's
So
true.
yeah, so go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything. You're good.
Oh, okay. So before we sign off, I'd like to thank you once again, Megan, for coming back on the show to have this argumentative debate, where we almost got into a fight. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, we were fighting. We had to edit out all of the punching,
Yeah, yeah,
but it did happen. You guys, trust
yeah.
us.
Molotovs were being thrown,
Yeah,
car explosion. We blew up each other's cars.
yeah, yeah. I have to get a new car now, you guys.
So is there anything you'd like to plug in on where our listeners can follow you along?
Yeah, you can find all of my writing at wonderwatchlist.com and insessionfilm.com. I had an interview that went up earlier this month with the director of Bob Trevino Likes It, Tracy Lehman. It was a really great conversation. That movie's great. Go check it out. You can find me on YouTube as Wonder Meg, and you can find me on all social media as Wonder Meg.
Nice. Yeah, I like I said before, I highly encourage everyone to follow Wonder Meg or Megan Loucks because, like I said, she's providing a lot of great material. Even I got a chance to listen to some of your review on Sinners. I didn't get a chance to watch the movie yet as of this recording, I should say, and I will catch it down the road. Hopefully, definitely by the end of the year, I will catch up with Sinners. But I want to be a part of that discussion. It's just right now I'm in a bit of a financial struggle, so to speak. And also I'm getting caught up on episodes for the show, which can happen from time to time.
And his car just blew up.
Yeah, that too. You can follow me and the show through Linktree under @Matthew995, where you can follow along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same site, I provide a link for where you can listen to more episodes of this show. And if you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know, and hopefully we can arrange that happening soon. I should also point out that as of this recording coming up in middle of May, all episodes are also translated over to YouTube. So if anyone doesn't have an Apple podcast on their app or Spotify or whatever they don't have a phone with them to listen to all of our episodes, I've transferred all of our episodes over to YouTube as well. I have plenty other things to share with you guys for what we're going to do leading up to our 2-year anniversary. I won't say anything specific right now, but I think you guys will enjoy what's to come for the show. And that's all I'll say about that. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.